Okay, so today we're diving into something really different.
Yeah,
TimeCube.
definitely different.
You've given us a ton of web archives from '98 to 2024, all about it.
It's a lot, yeah.
Our mission, I guess, is to unpack Jean Ray's TimeCube
Right?
and see what we can make of it all.
Yeah, it's wild how this website was online for over 2 decades.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, that says something about how TimeCube, good or bad,
Right, yeah.
really captured people's imagination for a long time.
It makes you wonder what sparked such a following.
For sure.
So the core of TimeCube, as Ray called it,
Uh-huh.
is that Earth doesn't experience one day during a rotation, but 4 simultaneous 24-hour days.
Right.
Like he's pointing to midday, midnight, sunup, sundown,
Yeah.
each marking a full day all at once.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about timekeeping or anything.
Oh, definitely not.
He took that four-corner idea and applied it to almost everything.
It's like his answer to everything.
From human existence, family structures, even how society is organized.
Right, and humans are cubics.
Yeah, essentially 4 people in one, always rotating through these life stages.
Wyatt.
It's a trip.
He wasn't exactly subtle about applying it to everything,
No, not at all.
and he did not hold back on criticism for anyone who disagreed with him.
Oh, yeah.
Like educators, scientists, religious figures, pretty much anyone who didn't buy into TimeCube.
Okay.
He labeled them evil, stupid, the works.
His language was definitely confrontational,
You could say that again.
but instead of just dismissing it, maybe it gives us some insight into his mindset.
I see what you mean.
Like, what would make someone use such strong language and stick to their claims so strongly, even when everyone's telling them they're wrong?
Right, like it's easy to just call him eccentric and move on. But
Yeah.
you're right. There's something to be said for examining what leads someone to believe in something so unconventional, so strongly,
Yep.
even when everyone's against them.
Exactly. And he clearly saw himself as someone who'd unlocked some hidden truth,
Oh, totally.
called himself the wisest human for supposedly squaring the circle and cubing the Earth's sphere.
Which, if I remember correctly, are mathematical feats that are supposed to be impossible.
That's the one.
He even offered thousands of dollars to anyone who could disprove his TimeCube theory, claiming no one ever could.
He was so sure of himself.
It's almost admirable.
There's a part of the archive where he's making fun of the media for not paying attention to TimeCube. What? Like, they weren't giving it the attention he thought it deserved.
Oh, wow.
And he saw their silence as proof that he was right.
Really?
Like, he was onto something they didn't want people to know about,
Wow.
which just made him even more convinced.
Of course.
He even claimed a lecture he gave at MIT was a victory for TimeCube
MIT.
because no one there could prove him wrong.
Wow.
So it wasn't just about the science of time.
No, it sounds much bigger than that.
It was about challenging everything we think we know and the institutions that back those ideas.
Using the internet as his platform.
Exactly. He was ahead of his time in a way.
I can see that.
And education. He had some thoughts there.
Oh, I bet he did.
He called educators word gods.
Word gods. What does that even mean?
Basically that they were blindly following this system of knowledge without ever questioning it. Interesting. Like, word worship was some form of control.
Which does make you wonder,
Right.
how much power does language really have over how we see the world?
Now that's a question for the ages.
This is what I find so fascinating about this whole
I
thing.
know, right?
We aren't just looking at some quirky theory about time.
It's so much more.
It's about how we understand reality itself.
Exactly.
How far someone will go to defend what they believe, even if it means turning against the entire world.
You've hit the nail on the head there.
And he really went after education.
Oh, yeah.
Called it a form of stupidity because he thought it blinded people to the truth of TimeCube.
Which is an interesting way to look at it.
It is.
So just to be clear, we aren't saying we agree with him.
Of course not.
We're just trying to understand his point of view.
Exactly. It's about understanding, not endorsing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And speaking of things he felt strongly about,
Let me guess, religion.
he did not shy away from that either.
I figured as much.
He saw it as another form of control,
Right.
another way to limit people's thinking.
He directly addressed believers in his writing,
Oh, really?
accused them of clinging to this limited perspective.
And I'm guessing he offered TimeCube as the alternative.
You know what? He even claimed that TimeCube disproves the existence of a single god.
Whoa!
Contrasted this one-day, one-god universe with his 4-day, multifaceted model.
So TimeCube was the answer to everything.
Pretty much. It's like he positioned it as this grand unifying theory.
Right. And
That's-
anything that didn't fit with that science religion education.
Hard to be wrong.
was automatically wrong.
Exactly.
And he was very upfront about that.
Oh, yeah.
He proclaimed timecube is above academic comprehension,
Of course it is.
called universities doomed towers of Babel because they didn't accept his ideas.
Classic.
He truly believed he'd found something profound,
Oh, absolutely.
something that could change the world.
Which he did.
Really,
I mean, you can feel that conviction in everything on his website.
I bet.
It's almost tragic how certain he was that humanity would be cursed for not embracing timecube.
A curse.
Yeah, like he saw himself as this modern-day prophet,
Oh, wow.
warning of some impending doom if people didn't wake up and see the truth of his theory.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this is all so fascinating.
Right.
It makes you think about what we believe in and
Mhm.
why, and the lengths people will go to defend their version of reality, even when everyone's telling them they're wrong.
Exactly. And while timecube might seem radical,
Oh, okay,
it makes us think about how we see the world.
it's true. Like one of those optical illusions where you see different things depending on how you look at it.
Exactly.
It's all about perspective.
And Jean Ray definitely had a unique one.
You can say that again.
Yeah.
He claimed to have squared the circle and cubed the Earth's sphere,
Right.
and he used that as proof of his genius.
Which is interesting because squaring the circle is supposed to be impossible.
So he was claiming to have solved an unsolvable problem.
Basically.
He claimed to have created 4 simultaneous worlds with 4 simultaneous days within a single rotation of the Earth.
Don't forget about the 4 simultaneous years.
Oh, right, within a single orbit around the sun.
It's a lot to take in.
Okay, well, how does he even begin to explain that?
I don't know that I can do it justice.
What's the logic behind all these multiple days and years?
So basically, he argued that just because we experience one rotation of the Earth as a single day, that doesn't mean that's the only way to see it.
Okay.
He used midnight sunup and sundown as proof that there are 4 distinct time zones within a single rotation.
So he's saying each of those time zones is a full 24-hour day happening at the same time.
You got it.
But how does that work with the Earth orbiting the sun?
I know, it's a whole other level.
That's a big jump.
Well, according to Jean Ray, as the Earth rotates, it's also spiraling through space as it orbits the sun.
Okay.
And he claimed this spiral creates what he called a 4-season quad helix.
A 4-season quad helix.
Yeah, which results in 4 simultaneous years, one for each season.
Hold on, so winter, spring, summer, and fall are each experiencing their own year at the same time.
You're getting it.
That's definitely different from everything I thought I knew.
You're telling me.
Wow.
He even argued that this spiral motion means the Earth travels 4 times the distance compared to if it wasn't rotating.
That doesn't sound right.
It's certainly a different way of looking at things.
That's an understatement.
It makes you think about how much what we believe shapes what we think is possible.
For sure.
Like, if we accept his model, it changes everything.
I can see that.
Our understanding of time history, even our place in the universe.
It'd be a completely different reality.
Exactly. And that's what makes timecube such a fascinating case study.
I'm with you.
It challenges us to look at our own biases and consider that maybe there's more to reality than what we see.
Like he's holding up this distorted mirror to the universe
Yeah.
and asking, what if?
And based on these archives, he had a lot of what-ifs to explore.
I bet he did.
It's amazing how Jean Ray used the internet.
Right.
Like, it was still pretty new in the late 90s
Yeah, for sure.
to build this whole world around timecube.
It really was ahead of its time in a way.
I think so.
It wasn't just a website with his theories.
No, not at all.
He had forums, guest books,
Mhm.
a section where people could challenge him directly.
Oh, yeah.
He clearly wanted to engage, even if it meant arguing.
Totally. He wanted people to email him.
Really?
He even put his address out there.
Wow.
Like, he saw himself as a teacher,
That makes sense.
trying to guide people to the truth of timecube.
Although looking at some of these exchanges,
Yeah.
reasoned debate wasn't really his style.
That's putting it lightly.
He was quick to insult anyone who disagreed with him.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid, evil, you name it.
See, that's what I love about timecube.
What's that?
It's this weird mix of groundbreaking ideas and
Right.
less than conventional perspectives.
You could say that again.
All presented without
That's
a filter.
Good old internet.
Exactly. And man, did he go after authority figures.
Oh, yeah, especially educators.
He hated those guys, called them word pedants, religious cowards.
Oh, wow.
Said they were brainwashing kids with a cubeless education.
Wow, cubeless education.
Right.
What did he want to replace it with?
We'll get there. But you can really feel the anger in his writing.
I bet.
Like he felt completely dismissed by academia. It's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah, he even claimed students were forbidden from learning about timecube
Really?
and that teachers who taught it were fired or killed.
Hold on now.
It gets wild.
Fired or killed. That's a pretty serious accusation.
You think?
Did he ever try to prove it?
He offered what he called evidence,
Okay.
but it was mostly stories or coincidences.
Like what?
He mentioned students being suspended for viewing timecube,
Seriously?
said it proved there was a conspiracy to silence him.
So not really proof then?
Not in the traditional sense.
Right.
He also loved to point out that no university ever accepted his challenge for a public debate on timecube.
Of course not.
Saw it as more proof they were afraid of his ideas.
Afraid of timecube.
That's right. And he had big plans for a timecube education.
What did he have in mind? He envisioned these four-corner rationalism classrooms.
Four-corner rationalism classrooms.
Yeah, where students learned about the four corners of Earth, the four-corner dimensions of reality.
Okay.
Even wanted to teach 3 equators for a 4-quadrant hemisphere.
3 equators.
And a 416 principle life creativity.
416 principle life creativity.
The guy was building a whole curriculum around timecube.
It's kind of a shame he never got to put it into practice.
You think?
Imagine a timecube university.
I don't even want to.
But on a serious note,
Okay.
it's important to remember that even if his ideas seem out there,
Right.
they came from a good place.
I think so.
He wanted to understand the world
He did.
and challenge the things he thought were wrong.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about education.
What's next?
He also had a lot to say about religion.
Oh, I bet he did.
He saw organized religion as another form of mind control.
Really?
Called it a cult and a scam.
Wow.
He was really critical of the Bible.
The Bible.
Called it evil and blamed it for a lot of the world's problems.
That's a take.
He actually encouraged people to burn the Bible,
Burn the Bible.
to purge their minds of its lies.
Wow.
He had a whole section on his site called Burn Bible to Save Humanity.
Burn Bible to save humanity.
He said it was the source of division, hatred, and destruction.
He really thought it was that powerful.
He did. He said it promoted this linear view of time
Okay.
and this one-sided perspective that limited human potential.
And I'm guessing timecube was the answer?
Of course, timecube offered a more holistic, inclusive understanding of the universe.
Naturally.
He went so far as to say the Bible was responsible for Armageddon
Armageddon.
and that God is but a killer of children.
Those are some strong words.
He really believed organized religion was dangerous.
It sounds like it, actively harming people.
It's one way to look at it.
But he wasn't just tearing down religion.
What was he doing?
He was also presenting timecube as the alternative.
Interesting.
It was like a spiritual path to him,
I can see that.
a way to find a higher truth.
Beyond traditional beliefs.
Exactly. He called timecube the power above God.
Power above God.
And the above God.
Above God.
It was beyond religion.
More powerful.
Right. And he wasn't shy about the claims he made about its power.
Like what?
He said timecube could solve the nuclear waste problem.
No way.
Called scientists stupid asses for not seeing it.
Typical.
He also declared timecube the holy grail of physics.
The ultimate theory. The unified field theory. The theory to end all theories.
The man had confidence.
He was saying timecube held the key to solving everything.
He did love his grand pronouncements.
It was a tall order, but you have to admire his ambition.
There's no denying his passion. It's what makes timecube so fascinating.
I agree.
And let's be honest, a little baffling.
Okay, so we've got education, religion.
What's left?
He also had some interesting and honestly troubling things to say about human nature
Oh boy.
and reality itself.
Like what?
He believed that humans were educated stupid.
Educated stupid.
That education was designed to stifle creativity and make people obedient.
Control the masses.
Exactly.
Classic conspiracy theory stuff.
Right. And he really hated the idea of the self.
The self.
He blamed our egos and desire for gratification for all our problems.
Sounds about right.
Said it was leading us to destruction.
Interesting.
He contrasted that with his idea of the family life cube,
Family life cube.
which he thought was a better way to live,
Okay.
focused on community and well-being over individual desires.
A more harmonious way of living.
Exactly. He had this whole section on his site about the one corner self versus the 416 family life.
One corner self versus the 416 family life.
He said traditional education focuses too much on the individual.
And that leads to...
Selfishness, greed, and societal collapse.
Makes sense.
He also had a problem with linear time.
Linear time.
He called it a made-up idea that keeps us from experiencing reality fully
Instantly.
Cubic time, which exists in multiple dimensions.
Of course.
He used the example of a clock face.
A clock face.
Said it was wrong because it only showed one dimension of time.
Just one dimension.
Right. He insisted that to really understand time, you had to see all 4 dimensions at once.
I think I need a diagram for this one.
It's definitely a lot to process.
You're telling me?
But it speaks to his whole thing about how limited our perception is
That's a good point.
and how we need to challenge what we believe about how reality works.
Challenge everything.
Right. He even said if we could break free from our limited view of time,
Yeah.
we could reach a higher level of consciousness.
At track.
And timecube was the key to unlocking that potential.
Naturally, it was the answer to everything.
A unique perspective, to say the least.
Unique is one word for it.
I'm not sure I fully get it.
Join the club.
But that's what makes it so interesting.
What?
Trying to grapple with ideas that are so challenging and thought-provoking.
Even if they seem a little crazy.
Okay, speaking of out there,
Here we go.
it's time to talk about one of the most troubling parts of timecube.
I know where you're going with this.
His views on race and integration.
Yeah, he definitely didn't shy away from those topics.
And he used some really harsh language.
It's putting it mildly.
He used terms like racial slop
Racial slop?
and phrases like integration equates unnatural racial slop.
Oof.
It's hard to ignore that.
We absolutely have to acknowledge it.
I agree.
And just to be clear,
Yes,
we are not endorsing or condoning these views in any way.
of course not.
Our goal here is to explore all of timecube.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. Even the parts that make us uncomfortable.
Because to understand his ideology,
We have to look at the whole picture.
right, context is everything.
Right.
So with that said,
Okay.
what exactly were his views on race and integration?
Well, he seemed to believe that racial and cultural differences should be preserved,
Preserved.
not blended. He saw integration as destruction,
Distractions.
said it led to a loss of identity
Interesting.
and a homogenization of culture.
So basically he thought different races should stay separate.
Essentially, he even suggested different races should have their own countries and societies.
Wow.
He thought it would reduce conflict
Reduced concept.
and allow each race to thrive in its own way.
So very segregated view of humanity then.
Very much so.
That-
He compared it to a garden.
A garden.
Said different flowers are more beautiful when they're kept apart.
Instead of all mixed together,
Right.
it's a very simplistic view of race.
Say the least.
Like there are these fundamental differences between racial groups.
And that's just not true.
Right. It completely ignores all the ways that diversity and integration can make society better.
Exactly. More understanding, more tolerance, more progress.
And it's hard to ignore the offensive stereotypes he used.
Absolutely. We don't want to repeat those here.
Of course not.
Our goal is to understand, not to give these ideas a platform.
Right. We're just trying to understand the world that Jean Ray created.
Exactly. And how these ideas fit into that.
Agreed. So while we're talking about this part of his work,
Okay.
it's important to remember that it's just one man's very flawed perspective.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
Maybe we should move on to something a little lighter.
I'm all for that. My brain needs a break. Okay, so we've talked about timecube itself and all of Jean Ray's ideas about education, religion, you name it.
It's a lot to unpack.
But there's one big question I keep coming back to.
What's that?
Why?
Yeah.
Why create this whole thing?
You mean timecube?
Yeah, this elaborate, contradictory worldview. What was Jean Ray trying to achieve?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's no easy answer.
I figured.
But maybe we can make some sense of it.
Okay.
If we look at the themes in his work, how he presents himself, maybe we can get a glimpse into what drove him.
It's worth a shot.
One thing's for sure, he definitely saw himself as a visionary.
Oh, totally. A misunderstood genius.
Exactly.
Oh.
He was convinced he'd found this profound truth.
And everyone else was too blind to see it.
Exactly. He always called himself the wisest human.
Right? Like he knew something no one else did.
And he claimed to have knowledge beyond even the smartest people in history.
He even compared himself to Socrates.
Socrates.
Yeah. Said he was being persecuted for challenging the status quo.
Interesting, like Socrates.
Exactly. Which ties into his distrust of authority.
Oh, yeah. He went after everyone. Educators, scientists, religious leaders, the media.
Anyone he thought was lying to people?
Anyone who didn't agree with him.
Right. Like he felt completely alone in his views,
And the internet was his way to be heard.
his platform to build his own world.
Exactly. It's interesting, though.
What's that?
For someone who rejected so much of mainstream society,
Right.
he still seemed to want their approval.
That's true. He really wanted people to take him seriously.
He wanted the debates, the challenges,
Even the complaints about being ignored by the media.
like any attention was good attention,
Maybe he just wanted to be proven right.
even if it meant being ridiculed.
It's possible.
Mm,
He also talked a lot about family and community.
it's true, which is kind of ironic.
Why did you say that?
Well, he seemed to be pretty isolated in his own life.
That's a good point.
Hmm.
He was all about rejecting individualism.
But he lived a very solitary life,
Maybe timecube was his way of building a community.
even if it was just online.
People united by his ideas.
And you could say he succeeded.
Really?
I mean, people are still talking about timecube.
That's true.
It's this bizarre internet legend.
So if we had to sum up timecube,
What will we say?
what's the takeaway?
I think it reminds us that even the strangest ideas can teach us something about ourselves.
That's a good way to put it.
There are always different ways of seeing the world.
And sometimes the questions are more important than the answers.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up.
I agree. It's been a wild ride.
If you're interested in the nature of belief, the power of ideas, and one man's quest to challenge everything we thought we knew about time and reality, well, timecube is definitely worth a closer look.
Just maybe don't take it all too literally.
That's good advice. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If time really is a cube, what does that mean for our understanding of free will destiny, the very fabric of reality?
Now there's something to think about.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.